Welcome to another episode, everyone. In High Desert State Prison in the year 2000, OG Blood from Swan stabbed another Blood who was also an OG. In fact, he was older than the OG from Swan. The OG from Swan, I will not mention his name because he is home now after 30 so years in prison, has been home for a few years now. And he had gotten away with this stabbing. And I don't want to rehash anything that could perhaps put him in some sort of jeopardy. I doubt it. I don't see how, but just not going to do it for those reasons. And the OG Blood that he stabbed had also been incarcerated for approximately 30 years. And again, was even older than the OG homie from Swan. The OG homie from Swan, everyone understood, was a stickler for the rules and for his money. He gambled a lot on the yard, primarily on football games and basketball games, not out there shooting dice or playing blackjack or poker like many people do. He mostly gambled on the games. You would bet the games with him or against him. Everyone understood that Swan wanted his money. If you lost, he wanted to get paid and get paid immediately. And if you were late, he had a serious problem with that. Some people would call him parsimonious. Some might say he's just frugal. He was pretty tight. He didn't like giving up any money whatsoever, and he wanted every single dime that was owed to him for whatever reason. Swan, he worked in the kitchen, and he used to sell sandwiches there in prison. Since he worked in the kitchen, he could grill the sandwiches. So he would take eggs, scramble the eggs, what have you, put ham in there, whatever sort of meat they had for breakfast, and he'd hook it up. Looking back on it now, it probably was disgusting. Like if I saw it right now, I would not eat it. But there in prison, it resembled lobster and steak. When you laid your eyes on these sandwiches, you wanted some of it very badly. And these sandwiches were a big deal. This was before people learned how to grill in prison. Now people just shave their bunks, literally your bunk. Get milk cartons and put toilet paper inside of the milk cartons, light it under the bunk, and that's your grill. It's burning under the bunk, and people fry their meat on there, burrito shells, tacos. People cook just like that. But before people were really doing that, or at least that I knew they were doing that, he was selling these sandwiches, working in the kitchen, and had access to the food and to the grill. These sandwiches were $5 or so. And everyone wanted to get their hands on these greasy ass sandwiches. And the OG Blood was no different. And he had been buying sandwiches from OG Swan. Not only that, they were gambling, but the OG Blood was making money. Now, I won't get into how he was making money, but he had money and everyone knew it. So OG Swan pretty much knew that he was in good hands. When they gambled and over these sandwiches, he owed him a few $100. Did the OG Blood. He owed Swan a few $100, and Swan wanted his money. But the OG Blood is telling him, my money is tied up right now, but you know I got money. Man, don't be sweating me over these damn sandwiches, bro. You know, they was cool at first. I wouldn't say that they were boys, but they both OGs from their respective turfs. So they got along just fine. They're both Bloods. They're both Damus. They both had been locked up, 30-odd years. But Swan, again, he's taking no prisoners. It doesn't matter who it is or what the situation is. He wants his money. He's been locked up a long time, doesn't have a lot of support like that. He still has support on the street, especially because he's an OG. His homies is even looking out for him. But he's self-sufficient, and he's making his money in there, selling sandwiches, gambling, and he's hustling. He's doing other stuff. He's fine. He's established. He's situated. But he wants to be able to keep that going. And he feels like if you short him $1, you're compromising his livelihood there in prison. I gambled with the man a couple of times when I was gambling in prison. Before I stopped, I gave it up cold turkey. I stopped, period. For the last few years I was in there, didn't gamble at all. Because it's dangerous for many different reasons. And when I gambled with him, he was on me like a bloodhound about his money. I stopped gambling with him. I said, this is going to lead to a problem. I got the money. This is going to lead to a problem. So I can imagine the pressure he's putting on the OG. Now, the OG, he has the money, but he just feels like now this dude is putting too much pressure on me. Like, who do you think I am? I'm a G. I'm a more of a G than you. I have more rank than you. Now, true enough, I owe you, and I'm gonna take care of that. But don't approach me aggressively. People in the yard that told both of them to just chill out. That they are comrades, cut from the same cloth, and are both trying to make it home. Y'all too old for this. Lead by example over some sandwiches and a couple of football games, a few $100, man, knock it off. Because it's looking like it's beginning to head towards somewhere no one wants it to go. But no one can talk to Swan. No one can talk him down. Once you owe him money, there's nothing you can say to this man. He wants his money, period. He don't want to hear nothing from anybody. And that's what he's telling his homie. No, I want my money. He owe me money, bro. Why is he gambling with me? He has the money and he just ain't paying me the money. Talking about his money tied up. Either way, you're wrong. Either you're gambling and you don't have the money because you ain't paid me, which is a no-no, a transgression against a very serious rule. Gambling or getting anything there in prison and not having the money to cover it. You will be removed from the yard brutally. So either you don't have the money and you're gambling, which is a removable offense, or you do have the money and you're playing with me. You're not paying your debt either way. Again, a removable offense. This is all true. You can't be viciously removed from the yard for this. Many people have been. OG is not too much worried about it. You know he's a G and has a lot of rank. But I don't think he's using that and abusing that as a reason not to pay. He's just saying that his money is tied up. But finally, it was all coming to a head. Swan had made his feelings clear that he had had enough on waiting on his money, and that if the OG did not produce his funds within 48 hours or so, then he wouldn't be responsible for what happened next. He had essentially laid out a threat, but he's telling this to his homies. His own homies in his own little group. Though they're both bloods, he hangs out with these people and he hangs out with these people. But the word is pretty much getting back to the OG that Swan has had it. And to watch your back and be careful, bro, because he could try to make a move on you. He's been locked up a long time. He's been known to stab people. Back in his day anyway. And that sort of stuff, well, it never leaves you. But the OG, he's not too much concerned because he too has heart, rank, self-respect, and respect in general. One day he got into an argument out there on the yard over this very issue. The money that was owed to him in front of the canteen. Some other bloods had to come and break up the argument because it was getting heated. They were in each other's faces. Apparently that was the last straw for Swan. Not long after, a couple of days later, Actually, right there in the day room where many things transpire in high desert. Many violent situations have occurred there under the stairs in the day room or behind the podium or just out in the open, with it being one officer having to watch 3 different day rooms in a 180 design. This lends for many opportunities to take care of business upon your opponent's head. And Swan was in the day room, and apparently he wasn't necessarily about to make a move right then and there until the OG approached him with his hands in his pocket and said, "Man, I'll have your money by tomorrow, but I hear like you sending out some type of threat." And he had his hand in his pocket. And I don't know where Swan produced this makeshift weapon from. A quick draw. It came out of nowhere. You look up and it was in his hand and he was swinging it at the OG Blood. Head hunting. The OG Blood, well, he didn't have his hands in his pocket for nothing. He too produced a blade swiftly. And they were swinging it at one another there in the day room. They both cut each other up. They stabbed each other. The Bloods rushed over there, even though it's not prudent to get involved in a situation where weapons are involved. Knives are being swung. I'm out of the way. It's too late to come and try to break it up or talk about it. They are done talking. They stabbing each other. This is not the time for me to come and try to be the voice of reason. Oh man, you brothers chill out. They're past all that. They trying to unalive one another. But the Damus rush over there, Damus being Bloods. Man, chill out, man. What you bro? Because they both OGs. If they hadn't really hit each other in the neck or in the face area where like anyone was in a life-threatening situation, it was still feasible to go and put a stop to it. They had both swung their weapons at one another 2 or 3 times, had hit one another in the chest area, though. Both of them were leaking, but not badly, again, to where they felt like they had to go to medical and expose themselves. They can just go to their cells and patch themselves up. And that's what they did. Because Swan, he didn't want to end up going to the hole and catching the case. He was trying to get home. And he eventually got home. He's home. And he had not been getting into any trouble, because you say, well, if he wants to get home, why is he in here stabbing someone over a damn sandwich? I get it. But it wasn't necessarily over the sandwich. As I've said before, they're in prison. Something can start over something trivial, petty, and minute. It may sound very petty to you. A piece of bread, a couple of stamps, a jar of coffee. And you argue over that, but then the violence comes when someone takes umbrage during that argument. So you're arguing over whatever the situation is, but that doesn't cause the violence. The violence only comes when someone feels disrespected during that argument. This is how it happens all of the time. And so, even though it was just over a few sandwiches, when Swan approached him asking about his money for these sandwiches, this is when he felt disrespected and felt like something had to happen. But again, he was cultivating a plan to attack the OG. But before he could, the OG, sensing that he was in danger, brought the fight to Swan. Had his hand in his pocket and said, "I'm going to pay your money, bro, but what's this about you popping it to the homies like, I got 48 hours and all that. Who you think I'm a G, bro?" But with his hand in his pocket, Swan now feels threatened and feels like this dude is about to attack me. So he started swinging his weapon first. So it was just a mess, a bloody mess there in the day room. Such is the daily occurrence there in High Desert State Prison and all prisons. They're all a cesspool mired in violence and death. And I encourage anyone and everyone to stay the fuck out of there. Nothing is worth your freedom, and I do mean nothing. What good is it if you have $1 billion if you're in prison? What good is it if you have $1 billion if you are unhealthy and can't enjoy it? So money's not everything. Money's not worth prison. Actually, nothing is, man. Nothing is worth your freedom. And I'm glad that I am out of there, and I hope for everyone to get the fuck out of there. I don't wish that place on anyone. And I think about those that I left behind all of the time. But that's what happened with Swan and OG Blood. Got into it over some fake ass scrambled eggs and smelly ass fried ham. Put on fried wheat bread. But again in there, oh yeah, it's like steak and lobster macaroni and cheese, the good shit. To the dudes in there. It was to me as well when I was there. So I get it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was it worth it? Stay safe and stay free, people.